forge your inner armor.
Looking at what our omega-3 index, or some people refer to it as our omega-3 ratio is, I have found across the spectrum, from young kids to adults, people with clinical problems, elite athletes, that us getting our hands around what your omega-3 index is super important to controlling the physiological variables that may kick our systems into sympathetic. So we talked about sympathetic a lot as that fight-flight activity that can happen from environmental situations, things that happen around us. They can also happen psychologically with our what ifs and what abouts. But they can also be happening. Our nervous system can be overactivated if there's some type of inflammation going on in our body. What happens is our body is super concerned about that inflammatory process, so much that it activates my nervous system and all my other systems and puts them in a sympathetic fight-flight mode, even though I'm not having any major stressor in front of me, or I'm not psychologically doing what ifs and what abouts. I'm in sympathetic because I have an inflammatory process going on. And omega-3 index is a phenomenal way to really get a grip of how much anti-inflammatory process you have available to you. And so the big thing here is looking at the difference between what your level of omega-3 is versus your omega-6. So these are essential fatty acids that you're not going to just create internally. You have to get those through your diet. You can't just make things like we make other things. And so we get them by what we're eating, and how our food is sourced really determines what is omega-3 fats and what are omega-6. And the way to think about that is anything that has a meat that is a protein that's brought about by taking in something that is brown, okay, like your cow is eating, grains and those kind of things, or whatever the meat you're using, or your chickens are taking in brown type things, grains, that's going to tend to produce omega-6s. What makes omega-3s is if your food source is taking in a lot of green, like grass, or in fish, for instance. The reason fish are high in omega-3 is because they're eating plants, they're eating algae, green things. And so that's what makes them super high in this. What happens is if that index gets out of balance and you have more omega-6 than you have 3, then you start to create more inflammation in the body. And so what I'd recommend to people is get your omega-3 index measured, which is through a simple blood test. Very low cost to do that. You just reach out to us and we can send one to you. It's under $50 to do. And you're going to get a reading. You're going to get a 2 to 3 page report of where your omega-3 index is. And then based on your omega-3 index, we're going to be able to put that into a formula that says how much more omega-3 do we need in your diet to cut down the inflammatory process. I mean, you might be having aches and pains and sleep problems and different things just because you have a high omega-6 volume. Another place to go is OmegaQuant, OmegaQuant.com, phenomenal resource. And you can kind of see different countries and how they rate in their omega-3 index. And then the last thing I'd recommend on this is fantastic book, The Queen of Fats. Very easy to read. And you're going to find out how actually these essential fatty acids, when used correctly, are better than any anti-inflammatory over-the-counter drug that you could take. But you just have to use it correctly.
And what about supplements? What value do those have?
Very good. Very important, though, is that you're looking for, and you'll learn about this in the Queen of Fats, you're looking for the volume of EPA and DHA. So you can have something that says, 1,000 milligrams of omega-3, but it may only have a total of DHA and EPA that equals 200. That's not what we want. We want you to be at least over 1,000 in the aggregate of EPA and DHA. And when you get your omega-3 index number back, we can put that number in to a formula and it will give us an exact number of how much EPA and DHA you need. You might need 1,800. You might need 2,200. You might need 900. Everybody's different. based on their initial assessment of what their omega-3 index is. It's amazing to see actually how this will improve sleep, decrease inflammation, gut issues, all kinds of stuff if done correctly.